Item 2 is declarations of interest. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Oldham. Oh, we're lit up everywhere. I'll go with Councillor Oldham at this stage. Anybody have any items to declare?
Yes.
Councillor Walker has indicated item 14. Thank you.
I declare an interest in item 5.
Item 5. So, Councillor, hang on, I'll just recap there. Councillor Walker's declaring the DA development application for the service station at Gaskell Street. Councillor Mullins is declaring item 5, which is the mayoral minute regarding the support for local media. Thank you. Anybody else?
Item 11, Mr Mayor, the Stronger Country Communities because of the lighting project at Molam.
Thank you, Councillor Batten. Item 11. Anything further? With nothing further, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 3 is declarations for political donations. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Durkin, seconded by Councillor... Who have we got down there? Councillor Newsom. She's lit up there. Any declarations of interest? None declare. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 4 is the mayoral minute of appointments, which I will move, and I have tabled a report. Does anybody else have anything for the mayoral minute?
I'll also table a document, please, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Councillor Davison.
Just a quick one, Mr Mayor. I attended a meeting of the tourism group, the Central West Tourism Group, which is part of the JO, this morning via Skype. They've agreed to review their strategies, and I'll come back to the JO in the next meeting with a full outline of those strategies. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else for the mayoral minute appointments? No? Well, I'll put that. All those in favour?
All right.
Against? That is carried. Item 5 is the mayoral minute to support local media, and Councillor Mullins has declared an interest in leaving the room. So I'll move that. Just in regards to that, Councillor Davison sent an email to the General Manager as a result of the information we received from the Office of Local Government. And in fact, the General Manager had actually already jumped on that, and we had spoken before Councillor Davison's email about supporting the local media and continuing on advertising how we have done in the previous anyway. So also Councillor Davison pointed out that there's a number of people that don't have access to computers and have the ability to access our website, which was very pertinent, so thank you for that, Councillor Davison. It's business as usual in regards to our advertising of our council business. So, if there's no further discussion or any comment on that, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. I'm going to grab hold of... Councillor Mullins, that was moved as per the recommendation. Item 6 is Committee of the Whole. Could I have a mover, please?
I'll move it, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Davison, and second by Councillor Jones. Do we have anything for Committee of the Whole, please?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think that probably item 10, 11, 13 and 14 in my list.
Item 10, 11,
13 and 14.
All right, thank you. Anything else? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
All right.
Against? That is carried. Item 7 is grouping of report adoption, which we have none. So could I have somebody move that, please? Moved by councillor Jones, seconded by councillor Oldham. Nothing there to group, so there's no discussion. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Item 8 is the confirmation of minutes. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Oldham, seconded by councillor Newsom. Any discussion at all? No? Well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 9 is the Renewable Energy Action Plan. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Batten, seconded by councillor Durkin. Just in regards to that, I'd just like to comment initially what a great report that is, and a great thing we're moving into that space of renewable energy. It's exciting times, and also I'd like to thank councillor Batten for his work with our renewable energy policy as well. So if there's anybody want to have any discussion on that at all?
Mr Mayor, I might just comment, if you don't mind, in favour of it.
Yep.
I just want to make the comment that I think this is probably one of the most important activities that we've actually as a council going to enter into. It does two things. The first thing is it continues the excellent financial management that this council has a reputation for. And if we look at it in terms of the return on investment from the projects, majority of the projects that are proposed are actually less than 5 years before they become cash flow positive. So that in itself is pretty impressive. The second thing is that it's a clear demonstration this council is actually accepting our social responsibility to contribute to addressing the issue of climate change. And what I'd like to do is commend the General Manager actually for his commitment and his leadership on this particular area, because I think, as we can see from what's proposed in terms of where the action plan's going, that it's a pretty exciting time, which the senior executive of the team actually have entering into. So I congratulate the senior team on their interest in and their leadership of the Renewable Energy Action Plan.
Thank you for that. Well, nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 10 and 11 are in committee of the whole. Now we'll go to item 12, is the Cadia Pipeline Agreement Deed of Lease. Could I have a mover, please?
Move it.
Moved by councillor Durkin. Seconder, councillor Davison. Anybody wish to speak against that at all? Nobody speaking against it. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. We'll move now to item 15, which is questions for next meeting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Jones, seconded by councillor Durkin. Does anybody have any questions for next meeting? No? I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 16 is business paper items for noting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by councillor Batten, seconded by councillor Durkin. Does anybody wish to call any items out of there for noting?
Mr Mayor, item 8 there, and item 9.
Item 8 and 9 in the noting papers.
Yes, in the notation papers.
Yeah. All right, we'll call 8, which is the Canowindra bus.
Yes,
That's correct?
that's correct.
All right. All right, you called that 8, so any discussion, what would you like to discuss on that one?
Okay, I'm just, the question is, that these buses apparently are quite old, the ones that the rugby club are using, and they need replacing. They're going for a grant, and if they don't get a grant, I'm not quite sure what might happen. Perhaps the local councillors can inform us on that one. But if they do get the grant, there'll be a shortfall, and that according to the grant document that was supplied to us, or details of it, we need to put in 50% of that money of the cost of those buses. And I suppose the question is really, should we agree to putting in that money at this stage, before they put the grant application in, because that's a problem. And secondly, if they don't get the grant, do we intend, as a council, doing anything about supplying buses to this group? Because they do supply the buses now. And these buses are used, is according to the report, for the older people around town and for various groups. So the question is our resolve as to the use of the buses, and if we are prepared to put money in towards them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davison. I suggest I would just place one comment on that. I guess if we do that for the Rugby Club of Canowindra, it then opens the door to requests from nearly every group in the Shire to do exactly the same as in sporting groups, and we have a lot of them. That's my only comment on that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I might just make another comment on that, I agree wholeheartedly there. But do council therefore want to, or not supply the buses, or not supply support for those buses? Are council willing to provide the buses at our cost to replace them if they're being used by the community? And it's a bit of a vexed question, and probably needs a bit more debate than we have time for here. And possibly we might like to make that as an item, possibly for the next meeting, to talk about. But it is a question that we're betwixt and between, aren't we? We're between the two boards here. That if we don't supply the money, part of the money, to back up their funds, are we prepared to supply the buses? That's the question.
Councillor Walker?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I ask the GM, he was investigating the Town Improvement Fund, the legalities and all that. Have you got any further with that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Pleasingly, we have researched and looked. We've found the Minister's approval for the TI fund, but there are some areas that I'm working with governance on increasing the way we approach it, because the idea of spending that money still should be done with consultation with the community of Canowindra explicitly, and favouring a model of, in the first instance, perhaps putting out, similar to what we did with the Balloon Festival, putting out it on 28 days for substantial funding spending, and in the next round of integrated planning reporting, we'd be able to go to the Canowindra community more holistically and identify specific projects for the delivery program. But since we're doing this post, if you like, on the run, the best process would be to go to the community directly by way of public display, and then obviously going to the peak bodies out there, being the business advancement group as well. So that's how we do it. So if you're sort of flagging there that potentially this could be funded in that way, that's, if we're going to do it, we do have to do a lot more due diligence on the process. As Councillor Davis is alluding to, we couldn't do it off this report. We'd have to come back. But even if we do it with the TI and it's Canowindra only, I do think Council would have to get ready potentially for a lot of groups. If we're getting in the business of community transport in this way, there's a lot of risks. The council becomes seen as doing into a business which will be very big impact on us financially if we're not careful.
Sure is.
Any further discussion or comment on that? Yeah, Councillor Webb.
Am I on?
Yep.
Oh. At the moment, they work with 3 buses, is my understanding, which for years now the rugby club has looked after, maintained and done all the work on. From what I can gather talking to Mark Brown, who is in charge of this, if we could get 1 bus, they could probably get the 1 bus working out of the other 3, you know, up to grade. But I think they're only 18-seaters or something along those lines, and the majority of times they take 2 buses on trips for the seniors who go tripping around not just Cabonne Council area, but outside the area in a tourism type situation. They do that twice a month for the men and then for the women. And I just think it's not only used for that, it's used to take people to Orange, that's my understanding, through the HAC office, for swimming in the heated pool. It's also for the rugby union players, you know, when they into town play games. So, you know, they're certainly well used. And I'd hate to see the seniors of Canowindra miss out because they haven't got a bus to do it in. So that's all I've got to say about that one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the Canowindra Rugby Club wants to write to council and put a proposal, obviously we can then consider it. But the difficulties are with insurances and things like that. That's an eclectic, to use the term, bunch of users. So you've got rugby. We all know what rugby trips can be like. Just saying. But you've got rugby, and then you've got seniors, and you've got to ensure that the buses, if council was in that business, it would be a different situation. There could be alternatives we haven't looked at. You know, is it a case if you know the number of trips, hiring buses could be actually cheaper in the long run for council for certain groups that are going on a certain number of trips per year. That, and with our procurement power, that could be done more easily. So there's a number of different options, but I suggest what this report flags is that there's grants there to go to try and repair the situation in the short term as a stopgap gap, if you like. But there are grants, and let's see what happens. But longer term, as I said, there's rugby clubs in Molong, there's Kidal, there's all sorts of other groups who traditionally didn't get the buses together to start with, but now the council could jump in and expect that service delivery from council. So, but that doesn't preclude us from looking at it all, but it's just one thing we've got to consider.
In using, Mr Mayor, or Mr General Manager, in using our funds, our town improvement funds, that really hasn't got to come back to the other communities, because they don't do that. You know, that's money that we've put together, we've banked and kept, you know, to use to the advantage of Canowindra people.
That's exactly right, Councillor. So that's why it'd be important also to make sure that the Canowindra community are behind that decision. And if that was the decision of the community and council, that would be obviously the means by which we'd say, well, we're not doing this in other places. But it can still be a case, as we know, sometimes everyone looks over the fence. That's all. I'm not saying that doesn't assist in council isolating, if you like, this service delivery, but generally, as we all know, the traditional use, and I know the Balloon Festival is an exception, but then this is a service. It's not infrastructure in the strictest sense of the words. But again, it'd be a matter for the Canowindra community who pay that money is to see where it gets spent. So we have to make sure we've done a good job of ensuring that the wider Canowindra community are on board with it.
Thank you.
Just ask a question on this Can I just ask a question? Are these buses used in addition to the cars and the ordinary community transport that we supply? We supply community transport from here, and is this the addition?
Through you, Mr Mayor. I probably literally have to defer to this Councillor Weaver or someone who knows more about the operating of that. I'm not aware, to be honest.
I think these buses, I'm of the understanding that the buses from Canowindra come through other villages and towns and pick people up to take them on trips and so forth too. So yes, they are used.
All right, any further discussion on that? Oh, Councillor Walker.
When Margot Brown organises your trips away for Gabon, which she does a very good job at, I think she hires the Ryans buses, the coaches and all that. And it's a big deal, don't worry about that. It's bigger than the rugby club in Canowindra. But like Councillor Weaver says, the Golden Oldies, when they go, they've only got 30 to 40 people. So they need 2 buses. And that's what they're looking at. And like she said, they're getting old like all of us, but they're looking for some sort of replacement.
Righto, thank you. Good discussion. Now, I won't put that just yet because we'll discuss item 9 as well, which Councillor Davison has called, which is the Cabon Blaney Family Daycare and Cabon After School Care.
I'm a bit confused about where we stand with all of this, because the rule seems to have been changed about every week or every day or every hour, and I'm just wondering whether we have any more information, any more up-to-date information about where we are financially with this, whether we've... I have no idea whether we're winning or losing here. This report was right at the time, I have no doubt, but I just wanted to know if there was any changes to any of that part. I'm lost.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it is quite correct. Things have changed. My understanding is that the funding that was being supplied by the state, which would have alleviated some of the problems, is not going to be attributed to family daycare. It will go to the after-school care. So there are some impacts which we can bring back to council, but at this stage we're able to keep June 28, 30 is where we hopefully will settle down and know where everything is, because it has been a fraught space. And we're also waiting for the federal government to commit to a further funding for family daycare more generally, notwithstanding COVID. So those things are all up in the air at the moment. Unfortunately, it is a moving feast.
Any further discussion on that matter at all? No? All right, I'll now put item 16 being the business paper for noting, given that we discussed items 8 and 9. All right, so I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 17 is matters of urgency. Could I have somebody move that, please? Moved by Councillor Durkin, seconded by Councillor Newsom. Does anybody have anything of a urgent matter? No? I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 18 is Committee of the Whole section of the meeting. Could I have somebody move that we move into Committee of the Whole? Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Weaver. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So we have item 10 called first, which is the Local Government Week 2020. So could I have a mover of that, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Davidson. So discussion on that, item 10. Councillor Davidson.
I've moved this into open purely so that we can talk about it. for no other reason. And in the past, we've had lots of ideas about what we should do on local government week. We've involved the schools in lots of ways. We've held council meetings at schools. That was a moving feast and a lot of fun. And I'm just really opening it up for general discussion, and that's the main reason I put it into open.
Thank you. Opened up for discussion. Anybody got any comments? Yeah, Councillor Wheeler.
Yes, Mr Mayor. I think what we did last year, where we went to the different schools around, I think that was brilliant, where the whole council participated and not just one councillor going to a school. I think it's more important that overall the children of Cabonne see councillors as the whole, and it's explained to them what our role is, what we do, and how to approach council when they want something done. And I think we had results from that last year, as far as at least Yagara went, which was really good. So yeah, I think it's important that we do something like that, maybe do the different set of schools this time. But yeah, I think everybody should be there to represent council.
Yep, thank you. Good comment. Councillor Mullins.
Yeah, I support that. Those school visits and the town visits are a great idea. The kids love it and they get a lot out of it. And I think we break the Shire up into various groups, and we've been to 2 or 3 since I've started here, and I think we've got more that we haven't visited, so we can find out the area of the map that we haven't been to and grace them with our presence. Yeah.
Thank you. No further. Just in regards to that too, I agree totally with those comments. So I think those school visits were very, very good. Also, the tour of the projects that have been completed or in progress. You know, I think that we can map a pathway around the Shire to fit those in as well, and on the tour, which was quite valuable last year. Like simple things of intersections being done up. You know, we don't always travel that particular route, and to see, for example, last year I think we went via the Kidal and we saw that intersection, and I travelled that a number of times, but not in recent times, to see how improved that intersection was good. And we went out to the limestone quarry and had a tour there, and so yeah, things like that I think are very good, and so I agree totally, but obviously it will be subject to restrictions of this COVID-19.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's what I was just going to add in, was to hope for the best and plan for the worst. So if we could come back to you with a plan that could include a tour, etc. But, you know, and because I know schools are obviously at the moment no external visitors, and whether that holds for a long period, who knows. But we could all, and I know we've probably all got PTSD from the experience of using Zoom, but equally we could organise councillors going, like we did in a meeting, to the schools for the kids to ask questions and things, something like that, just off the cuff. I just thought could work pretty well. So we can come back to you with some ideas to the workshop, next workshop or the one after, to consolidate that, but we'll adapt to things as they progress.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? No. Well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item number 11, which is the Stronger Country Communities Fund Round 3. Councillor Batten's declared interest and is leaving the room. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Durkin. Okay, Councillor Davison, you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I do. I noticed that we've got a bit of money that's hanging over from the Canoundra lighting project, which we haven't got anything from. And the question is, how much was that Canoundra co-contribution, and does that cover the cost of doing the lighting at the Molong Rec and also the Yeovil Master Plan, which was a total of $165,000 short for both those two those two projects. And we allocated, I guess, some money towards the Canoundra lighting project, which didn't get up. And the question is quite simply, have we got enough money in the bank to cover that 165,000 shortfall?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, that's essentially what we're recommending to council, is that the money that there is 165,000 shortfall in the original ask for the two projects that got up, that we would use the money from reserve for that. However, also with a bit of a proviso that Building Better Regions, being the federal funding, which is still yet to be announced, both Canoundra Lights and Molong Lights are in that pool of grants, and in that case, that federal grant enables, if for example Molong was to be successful in that, 100% of the funding could be sourced from both the state and federal grants, so we wouldn't touch reserves, and then a decision could be made with that surplus of reserve money with a look at the Canoundra Lights. Having said that, Canoundra could get 50% of the funding in the Building Better Regions round and Molong not, or they both could get it. So what this report indicates is the big decision, I suppose, well, the bigger decision for council is to fully, if they're happy to fully fund both the Yeovil recreational precincts proposal in the grant, because it was short what we asked for to fully do the works, and we could downsize that to match the amount we funded by not doing the tennis courts and the wall. But what we can do is basically fund both projects, await the Building Better Regions outcome, and providing whatever happens there, we can then look to fund the project being the Canoundra Canoundra Lights project from a combination of whatever's left. So whether it be reserves and or moving money over that was set aside for the Molong Lights that no longer has to happen. So I'm sorry it is a bit messy, but it's hard we're in between two grants. So the idea would be to hold now, with council saying essentially the lighting upgrade at Tom Clyburn is still a live project subject to a grant which council supports, and we would put to council a transfer from reserves to fund that project if it was to be successful in the Building Better Regions. If it's not successful out of both these rounds of grants, obviously we'd have to look at what's council's commitment to that project proceeding. Does it bring into play the TI? All those things would have to be looked at if basically we got through both rounds where Canoundra missed out. I'm happy to take further questions if that, but I do apologise, but it is a little bit complex when we're talking about two grants and there's 100% able to become if you get two grants together. So.
Can I ask?
Councillor Newton.
Can I ask the General Manager through you, Mr Mayor, just to explain the reasons why Canoundra wasn't successful this round, so that they understand what probably needs to be done from the Canoundra end to take it so that it does get higher up the priority list. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes. Unfortunately, the feedback was that the grant application was light on community support, was one of the big reasons. So letters of community support, other groups, which would have been better to have, and if we had the sports, a bit more information from the Sports Trust to accompany that grant might have assisted. So those are, obviously it's not council's decision, it is the people who make the decisions on the funding, being the state government, and I think these days they're trying to keep that away from politicians a little bit more, but the reality is it wasn't as strong because it didn't have that supporting documentation, which means if we get a bit more of that work done, I'm happy for Naomi at the back, our grants officer and acting economic development manager, to chime in with any more information if you've got any, Naomi, to add to that. Yep.
I probably would just echo what you said and just note that, for example, as a comparison to the same type of project, the mobile one did achieve around 9 levels of support, plus also
So through you, Mr Mayor, just for the recording, obviously it was based on the fact that there was very little evidence of community support, even though the Sports Trust did try, that they could base the application on. So, like I said, we'll watch this space. We'll see what Building Better Regions brings, because it could bear more fruit. But at this stage, we recommend this recommendation as being so Yeovil it still gets the full amount of their grant, and the lights can proceed, but we will be recommending that to council we hold just until that Building Better Regions comes out before we commit to funding it all from council.
Councillor Walker.
Is the question to our engineer, if they've been over and looked at the Canberra Sports Trust grounds where the lighting and that is, and we know you have, but there's a lot of work been done there voluntary a long time ago, and I think that's well and truly on its way anyway. Will that cost as much as what Molan, because it's from scratch, isn't it?
Through you, Mr Mayor. It's really outside of my expertise to be able to quote what needs to be done. Generally with the electrics and lighting, it's not what you see, it's what's underground, and that runs the risk. With these projects, when you start changing the lamp heads, etc., the electrician will look at the underground wiring and then find issues with that. So it can become a quite expensive exercise. We'd have to undertake a full scoping by a qualified electrical engineer to be able to determine. That's really outside of my expertise, Councillor.
Because the other day there was an upgrade done on the lights at the Sports Trust. It's not the Tom Clyburn Oval, it's Canberra Sports Trust. What was the result of that?
Again, through you, Mr Mayor, that was just simply changing the light globes. There wasn't anything, any significant maintenance done on the lights for that. There was a check of the starters in the lights, and they were all found to be fine, but it was just purely the light globes replacement.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think also just to clarify that the lights project, yeah, they are pretty similar. Like the grant we're going for is to do a similar thing that Molong we may be getting would be conducive to Canberra, given that the oval's roughly the same size as you need the same. So if you change the whole lot in and out, it'd be similar to the process we'd undertake on Molong. If that answers your question.
Councillor Weaver.
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to ask the question, is this information given to the Sports Trust? Have we got a representative at the Sports Trust that's taking these, requirements to them so they know what's got to be given?
Yeah.
Who's council's representative?
Naomi spoke to Andrew Paul this morning.
No, but I mean, isn't there a councillor? I mean, I've been a couple of times to their meetings. Who's the council representative, and aren't they supposed to be telling the Sports Trust what is required?
Councillor Durkin, I think you'll find, isn't it? You're the representative from council and the Sports Trust?
Because they've been around the meeting, they've gone for a long time. We've had a lot of discussions. I've had a lot of discussions with Andrew Paul over the phone over the recent months, but I don't think there's been a meeting of the Sports Trust being called for a long time.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll just to clarify too that coincidentally we're doing an examination of our 355 committees, and the Sports Trust sort of falls in that bracket of a 355, even though it has a term of trust. So we've getting ready to we'd had one meeting with representatives from the Sports Trust in that guise. So we want to get that relationship going better and more formalised, and how it all works, because it is a little bit hit and miss at the moment. And I think the President has indicated he's supportive of meeting with myself and working out how we're going to keep this going forward to ensure that the Sports Trust deals with council assets, So we have to have a good relationship. So in that, obviously, given the last 3 months, it's been problematic, but we just started that process in February. So as soon now that we can hopefully meet, we'll have be able to get that a little bit more in order.
I have to say too, I get really disappointed with the response the Sports Trust gets from council. I mean, they've been knocked back so many times on so many projects that it is absolutely frustrating for them. They lose inspiration as a committee, and there's nothing worse than that in trying to run an organisation like they're trying to run. So, I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just would indicate that council did attribute a lot of money out of its reserves for this project, supporting the Sports Council's grant funding. So we want to help them get the grant. So council is in support, and obviously the grants officers work pretty hard with them. Maybe, and what's been indicated is some of the support also needs, I suppose, to be more pronounced or evident when we put in the grants from some of the other community groups by way of letters of support would help as well. But I do understand that's part of this understanding each other, and that's why we're doing these 355 works. There's a number of our committees that are a little bit disengaged, and if we can re-engage with those committees, I think it'll work better for council and hopefully better for them.
All right, thanks. Any further discussion on item 11? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Councillor Batten, that was moved as per the recommendation. Item 13 is the Molong Floodplain Management Advisory Committee terms of reference adoption. Could I have somebody move that, please? Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Mullins. Councillor Davison.
I once again open this up for public or for debate amongst the councillors. The floodplain thing has been going on since I've been on council in the last about 8 years, I suppose, or getting on towards 9 years now. And we don't seem to have got anywhere with it. It seems to have sort of stalled in the mud. And I would hope that this management advisory committee, we can get something going forward with it for the sake of Molong and the flood situation. From what I can gather, that the major problem seems to be the railway bridge down the bottom from the notes that I made years ago. So it's really open to people who know much more about the people who have put their names forward than I do.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Mr Mayor, I note we have to appoint a councillor representative. I'd like to put forward Councillor Paul Mullins as council's representative, in addition to you, obviously. I believe Councillor Mullins has been a strong advocate around this topic for a number of meetings and shown a great interest in it, and I think you'd do a great job on the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Mullins, are you interested in being council's delegate on the committee?
Yeah, no, very much so, Mr Mayor. And might I say is when we do get the committee together, whoever's on it, the representatives from the community, I think we should aim for having people who have an open mind. There are a lot of people in this town who think, I know how to fix the flood problem. And quite frankly, a lot of them don't. And we've had so many conflicting views, and I'm sure the way the council, that this committee, the way it's established and set up and will operate, will get the right answers for mitigation. Flood prevention is certainly not going to happen. You will probably not get the money to do a 100-year prevention measure, but you may well stop the 1 in 20, which is the biggest problem at the moment with investment. So if everybody keeps an open mind, I think I think the committee will be very successful, and I'm happy to be nominated. Thank you.
Thank you. What I might do there is By show of hands, everybody's happy with the election of Councillor Mullins to the committee?
Mr. We appoint the alternate
Yeah,
at
I'll
the same
deal-
time and just
yeah, I'll
deal
deal
with
with
both at once?
We want to do it a lot? Well, I'd like to nominate the Deputy Mayor as the alternate for my position.
And Councillor Oldham as the alternate for Councillor Mullins.
Are you happy, Councillor Jones, to be my alternate for role? Yep. What about you, Councillor? Are you happy to be alternate to Councillor Mullins?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Does anybody wish to discuss any fors or against that? Everybody's happy with that? Well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. All right, that moves us on to now item 14, which is the development application in which to Councillor Walker's declared interest and is leaving the room. So it's development application 2019-0169 Service Station Gaskell Street, Canowindra. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Davidson, seconder. Councillor Batten. So, Councillor Davidson, you wish to speak for it?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I've had a look at this development over the last couple of years, I suppose, and hoping that something would happen to the site. It's not exactly a standout in the streetscape, I don't think, and I certainly support this development. It's an investment of about $1.5 million. From what I can gather, it's been certainly well researched and well reported on for us by the council people. It's a very thorough report. In fact, you wonder when you go through all the requirements why anybody would go into business in Australia. There are so many holes in it, or so many little holes that have to be filled in. I don't think we should let this slide and be in the same situation as we currently seem to be with the retirement village. That's a real pity. One of the great tragedies that I've got in my council life is that going backwards. It's a beautiful village, Canowindra, and it's got some wonderful tourist and heritage features in it. And I don't think this particular development does anything to take away from that look of the village. It's situated at the southern end of the town, and it should capture some visitors back into the centre of the town for the aged fishers and the information centre, etc. Particularly people are coming from the south, from Canberra or Cowra or Bura way. And the other end of the town, people coming from the western side would go down the main street, would also be able to access this service station. There are only 2 service stations in town now. There used to be, from what I can gather, up to 9 at one stage, and it seems an awful lot. Way before my time, I would think, me going down there. When people coming from the south, of course, they come past the mural at the swimming pool, and there's other signs directing them back down the main street past this facility. There seem to be a couple of places that do look similar with their heritage, and one of them is a place called Handoff in South Australia, up in the hills behind Adelaide, and it's got a main street which is very, very similar in some ways, except it hasn't got a bend in it, like the villages we have here. And they've reconstructed their main street in the same way that this one has been done. And I just think that this development will do so much good for the town, and I fully support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against it? Against? Yep, Councillor Durkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wish to speak against the DA. I note the report states that it is approved and meets all the conditions as per the draft conditions of consent. It's just my personal opinion. I want it noted, it's personal opinion that I don't believe a business or the building of this nature would fit within the design frame of a historic main street, especially residential part of Gaskell Street that it is. And as a footnote to that, I'm also speaking on behalf of those people who have publicly spoken against the DA over time since this DA has been launched. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak for it? Speak for?
Yes.
Yep. Councillor Weaver?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I would vote for this to go through. I have to congratulate the staff on the comprehensive report they've given us. They've covered every contingency, every question that's been asked, and I'm a little bit like Councillor Davidson in saying that, you know, it's more welcoming than what's there at the moment. What is there at the moment is an eyesore. And to put a business there that, for one, could employ people out of Canowindra, two, be the convenience of to the people in the main street. I cannot see a problem with it being there. I know it's a contemporary building, but there are other contemporary buildings in that main street, and I don't see how they are going to conflict, or how it is going to conflict with the rest of the main street. So I'm in favour of it.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? Are you against?
I'm against.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor
What I wanted to particularly comment on, and also in agreement with the people the ratepayers who've spoken against it, is one of the things that came up in our meetings we've held about the future of Canowindra to do with the draft master plan. The main street was identified as the essential component of what Canowindra sort of stands for, or Bendy Street as it's called. To have this sort of building, even though in the DA information it said that it met with heritage, when you look at the actual viewpoint of the view of the building, it is quite a modern building, located between two residential premises, and I believe that it's going to be out of character and not fit within the confines of what the Gaskell Street has been set up for. In addition to that, I'm concerned about the traffic as it turns or comes in from the south and turns down Gaskell Street. If there are big trucks coming in, are they going to continue down Gaskell Street, or is there going to be a traffic diversion put in place so it goes down Ryle Street, which then means it impacts on the residents who are along Ryle Street? Employment opportunities, sure, there may be a couple of opportunities there, and obviously they may use local people to build it, but that's an unknown. It's really also to do with the fact that when the last letter was sent out by council dated the 4th of May, the ratepayers who it was sent to were only given until the 8th of May. Some of them didn't receive it until after that date, so they couldn't actually put their hand up to come to the public forum. They were referred to the council website to complete a form. That form was not there. I had to ask for it to be reinstated onto the website, which is not really great when you're dealing in this sort of environment with people trying to do stuff from home. And I agree with Councillor Durkin in the fact that I will not be supporting this DA. Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak for it? Councillor Batten.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to speak for the motion and refer councillors to page 46 of the report, which very clearly tells us that demolition of the existing building has no negative impact on the heritage value of Gaskell Street, and in fact it actually indicates that the proposed development is of quality that is acceptable and appropriate to the heritage significance of the heritage conservation area. So I understand where people are coming from in terms of the traffic issues, but I think the conditions that have been placed upon the development very clearly indicate that council has taken a very proactive approach in actually getting those traffic issues addressed. So, and we've spoken about this at length previously. So I think we're in a position where we can approve this particular development.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against it? No. Councillor Weaver, you're still lit up there.
Oh, sorry.
Any other further comment on? Councillor Trevors.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. I'm for it, but with a heavy heart. I have to take out all of the town's concerns about personal things, the aesthetics. I'm solely voting for it that it ticks the boxes for an approved development, and if we were to go against that and take into Leeds environment, that we would lose that case. So that's why I'm voting for it, solely on the purpose that it ticks the boxes.
Thank you. Councillor Mullins.
Yeah, just a brief comment. I am for the proposal. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't go ahead. And I know I do commiserate, I suppose, with the feelings of those people who are against it, and I understand their feelings. I just wonder about the big truck bogeyman. If I could suggest to them, I can't, there is two other service stations on the highway. If I was a driver of a big truck, I don't know if I'd be pulling into Benty Street to get me petrol when there's one I can call into down the bottom of the street quite easily. So, and I'm not sure those big trucks are allowed to go down Benty Street in the first place. So I think that the traffic thing is going to be pretty well local and pretty well hitched to motor cars, and therefore convenience, and will attract tourists to the street and to the benefit of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment at all? No? All right. Well, I'll put that in its A division, so I'll need a show of hands. All those in favour, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Against? 2. And you want your against recorded? Councillor Durkin and Councillor Newsom against. Thank you. That's carried.